current dating is just practicing for divorce. What's that mean?
It means you're learning the tools and skills required to recover from a breakup rather than how to maintain a marriage. So you are learning how to make somebody jealous, how to move on quickly, how to meet somebody new, how to play hard to get, how to play games, how to essentially ensure your relationship will not make it through the tough times. You're not learning how to sustain and maintain and how to debunk some of the behaviors in yourself that are toxic to the relationship. You're just learning how to categorize every ex of yours as a narcissist, but not about what behaviors or traits in you attract or even are narcissistic. So I think the current dating climate is purely, how do I move on? How do I protect myself? How do I not get too attached? Catch flights, not feelings. That culture is what we're being taught.
I guess this is similar to what we said before, the risk aversion, the guarded response.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly that. That's what it is. I mean, in your opinion, have you noticed that as well? Like from a man's perspective? I mean, I've noticed it as a woman because I remember trying to share something positive about men, and I couldn't find a meme online. I was looking and scrolling. I was trying to find something to show how lovely it is when you're loved by a man. And I scrolled for hours and hours and I couldn't find anything. But when I try and look for a meme that will say men are this, men are that, within a second, and then that was my wake up moment, because I was just like, even if I wanted to say something positive about my partner, I can't find anything online. And then I realized that it is a culture of getting you to hate men. Is it the same for men? Do you find that the same kind of culture is trying to be breeded?
Certainly in terms of men having distaste for women, like, don't worry, King, you don't need her. She's just a hoe in any case. Like Sigma male memes abound.
Yeah.
There's a lot less positivity from men to men, generally.
Right.
I think that there are still pro-women cohorts, but there are fewer pro-men male cohorts. And, that's partly just because of the trend. Everyone says, like, women will give people compliments and not mean them. Men will take the piss out of each other and not mean it. It's that kind of balance. But it can mean, think about Jordan Peterson, right? Why he came onto the scene so much. And he used to tear up all the time telling the same story, which was, these men have never had a positive word told to them their entire lives. They've never been encouraged. They've never been told that they are worthy of love or acceptance or praise or validity or any of that. Yeah. Why did that message resonate? Because so many men felt and still do feel like no one sees them, that life can be hard, that they do have emotions, that they do want to open up, that they do need support, that they do want to be praised in a way. And because there is nothing deeper, I think, because there is still a challenge in maybe men opening up themselves, is some of the boundaries of that have been broken, but the boundaries of men responding to men that have opened up definitely still exist in a massive, massive way. So, okay, what are the ways in which I can get some validation from the world? Well, success, money, cars, education, women, status, prestige, dominance, aggression, all of these, they're like proxies for what a lot of men want. And that's not to say I want all of those things as well, right? But they're proxies for what men miss, I think, more spiritually and existentially.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like in my work, when I've worked with men who have turned to prostitution and who have turned to pornography addiction, a lot of the time, especially when they turn to prostitution or even just a gold digger, they're so hurt when she doesn't like them back. So they're not paying for sex. They're actually paying for intimacy. And I always tell them, you can't buy intimacy. You can't buy it. This girl, you can buy her a bag and you can have sex with her, but you're craving connection. And that is something you can't buy. And the reason they're craving connection is because A, they don't know where to find it. And also they're being told if they do look for connection, they're a simp. That word simp gets thrown around. So we've almost shamed men for wanting and craving connection. And I can say in honesty, the men that cheat, the men that turn to pornography, the men that turn to escorts, I'm very non-judgmental because I understand behind every self-sabotaging behavior, there is a need that has not been met for a really long time. And for that need to be met, they turn to self-destructive behavior as a coping mechanism. So I definitely think that we've got a crisis of men seeking intimacy, but believing that it's wrong. And the culture and the internet is also teaching them that it's wrong. So they're secretly craving it and then secretly finding outsourcing it in the wrong ways.
Simping for women is wanting emotional connection, but somehow buying her a bag and flying her all over the world is not simping, and that's the alpha male way to do stuff. I know it seems like the bar stool's been turned upside down a bit. Yeah. Okay. So you've said current dating is just practicing for divorce. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of talk about the fragility of long-term relationships and divorce rates going up. You've actually done some research looking at what predicts divorce. Mm-hmm. What did you find?
Well, I have to give credit where credit's due, but the most long-standing research into marriage and relationships was by the Gottman Institution, and they did the most scientific and objective analysis of relationships, and they studied 10,000 couples in a lab over a couple of days, and they were able to predict with 80% accuracy which couples would stay together and which ones would get divorced within a year. And it was so simple what they were able to find, and it was simple thing as responding to each other's bids for connection. What I mean by this is when we have a partnership where one person comes home and expresses an emotion, the other one picks up on it, that partnership has the base levels to last a really long time. So it could be a simple thing like you come home from work and say, oh, I'm so tired, and your partner says, why, what's wrong? Simple connection. From that connection, they trust each other, and then they start to lean into each other. But if you come home and you're like, I'm so tired, and your partner either says nothing or says, why are you tired? I'm the one that's been with the kids all day, or what have you done all day? I've been at work all day. That turning away from each other's emotional needs is the training ground for divorce. They are now setting themselves up for divorce, and it might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, it might last another 10, 15 years, but we get emotionally exhausted by having partners who reject our kind of advances for connection, and eventually the relationship ends.
Why is it the case then that divorce rates are rising? If that's the biggest predictor, if that's 80% accuracy of being able to predict, why has that specific trait changed so much over the last 50 years?
Distractions. There are alternatives to everything. Even if you want a meal, you'll have 50 alternatives on Uber Eats. You want to go out to eat, there's 50 places that you could go. You want to watch something, there's 50 alternatives of what to watch. There are so many alternatives to every single aspect of life that it makes it almost impossible to invest in one. Everybody and everything becomes disposable. So what's happening is when your partner comes home a bit tired or stressed, it maybe in the past you'd pick up on it, but now you're on your phone. Or maybe when your partner wanted to watch a series that you didn't care about, in the past you may have been like, okay, it's fine, I'll just get on with it, there's nothing else on. Now, like, you watch this, I'm going to watch that. There's so many alternatives to everybody, and every person is now becoming so disposable that we can no longer have the patience to invest in people's emotional needs. And we're becoming so hedonistic that our emotional needs come first. And we're being taught this in society more and more. We're always talked about put you first, self-esteem, self-assurance, self-actualization. The word self is kind of programmed in our psyche, and the collectivism that we used to have as a society is gone. So we're no longer getting happiness from somebody else's happiness. It's a selfish pursuit now, unfortunately.
Isn't it strange that the trait of focusing not on somebody else's desire for connection is causing you to turn inward? That is causing divorces to increase down the line, which means that people respond to that by being more defensive, by being more guarded and more cynical, which makes them turn further inward, which makes them less of an eligible partner to the next relationship, which then just creates a cycle that then gets broadcast onto the internet. People who haven't had much experience in relationships because they're young, or because they fail out, or because they're concerned or nervous or averted to risk, use that as their proxy and say, right, well, I'd better enter into this relationship guarding myself so that I don't get hurt, which makes it more likely that it's going to break up, and the cycle just continues.
It's exactly that. What happens is we're actually entering relationships with our armor up. But in the process of playing those games, like not texting back, not getting too close, not attaching, not telling them that you miss them, not telling them that you love them, you are training somebody to love you in the wrong way. If I'm somebody who's needy and I actually need lots of love and reassurance, but I don't want to text first and I don't want to be looking needy and I don't want to say I miss you because I'm going to wait for him, I'm then teaching him that I'm cool, calm, and collect, and I don't care when I hear from him. If I see you, I see you. But then he's not getting the training ground of what I truly want. He's not getting access to my true needs. So I am now no longer communicating effectively. I'm actually teaching him how to love in a very avoidant and dismissive manner because I'm pretending to be cool. When really, if I say, look, I need to speak to my partner on a daily basis. I like to see you regularly. I love you. I miss you. What is this? I like labels. When I start communicating my needs, he will actually learn how to love me. But we're teaching people to do the opposite. We're teaching people to pretend that they're somebody else, and especially pretend that they're avoidant, pretend that they're independent, pretend that they don't have these needs. So essentially, we're going to attract the wrong partner.
What else have you found that is a predictor of a toxic or a negative or a declining relationship?
Criticism over praise. Again, with the research, one of the things that they find is partners that last are ones that praise a substantial amount compared to criticism. So they scan the environment to kind of praise their partner. They'll look for excuses to praise their partner. Like, even if it's as simple as like, you make the bed so good. Every time I come home, the house is clean. These tiny things, any opportunity to praise their partner. But what happens in relationships that end is they can't remember the last time they complimented each other. They think it should be a given. They think, well, I think you're pretty because I'm with you, aren't I? Or, I'm grateful that you pay the bills. Like, you're a guy. Why do you need compliments? Men are craving this. I've noticed a lot in my practice, the men that often have affairs, they're not actually seeking sex. They're seeking a woman that compliments them. They say they can't remember the last time a woman told them that he looks great. Whereas for women, our partner says it, but also our friends will tell us. People will tell us. Yeah, we're always being told we're beautiful or whatever it is. But for men, if their partner doesn't tell them, nobody does. So when they meet somebody who simply tells them they look good, they're intelligent, something to validate them, they immediately become attracted to that because they're starved of it. So praise is something that I think couples forget how important it is.
I suppose that the game playing and the rivalry that sometimes happens in relationships as they start to go downhill, that makes this situation worse, because you're not going to praise somebody that you think is your rival or that you're trying to play games with, or that you're unsure about the level of trust that you should put in them.
Well, whoever you don't feel safe with. Thing is, all of these things that I'm saying, they only come when you feel safe. Now, simple things like liking other girls' pictures or following people now makes people feel super unsafe, super, super unsafe. So their guards go up. I know people that the moment they add somebody on Instagram and they see who they're following, they might have had a really great date with them. Everything was great, but then they look on their following and like, oh, straight away, insecurities, guards, everything. So we're now, unfortunately, in an environment where you're thrown into the deep end. All your insecurities can now come alive through the use of social media. So people are going into relationships ready for it to fall apart.